All right, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about the best budget lens to kind of get yourself started in wildlife photography. It's the Sigma 100 to 400 6.3. This lens recently, and when I say recently, about a year ago, I ended up getting into wildlife photography and needed something a little bit more of a step up from my 70 to 300 that I was using previously. And the 100 to 400 kind of fit the bill as far as pricing and the reach I could get. Also, I shoot on a crop body camera, being the Nikon D7500. This lens will work though. There's versions for Canon, Nikon, Sony, and Fuji, I believe, as well now. It's an older lens for sure. As far as like reviews go, other channels will probably cover this as far as like specs go, way better, and you've probably seen those videos already. Just wanted to kind of talk about it and give my thoughts on this lens, on why it's such a good lens for anyone kind of getting into wildlife photography, or you're already in wildlife photography and you're just looking for another lens. When I was initially looking for lenses to get, it was between the 100 to 400 and the 150 to 600, both by Sigma. I also rented the 200 to 500 Nikon, and I found that as much as it was a nice lens, it took amazing photos, and it was a 5.6 constant aperture, it was so heavy. It was a beast of a lens to carry around, which is ultimately why this lens won out. On a crop body camera, it turns out to be a 150 to 600 equivalent. It's the size though. I mean, this is how big it is. I believe it's 8 inches completely closed from end to end. Opened, I think you're close to 13 inches, 12, 13 inches. The action is smooth. It's sharp wide open at 400, which I've heard on the 150 to 600. The 600 end is not as sharp. But you do get that extra reach at the price of being a lot more weight than this guy. This guy I can throw in my backpack. I don't feel it. It doesn't feel heavy. It doesn't feel cumbersome. There is obviously a bit of heft to it, but the fact that it's so small and compact, and I do a lot of hiking and moving around, where I knew if I had the 150 to 600, just like when I rented the 200 to 500, I left it in the car a lot after a week, and it kind of just sat there, and I would only take it out if I knew I was going for wildlife. But sometimes these things work great for landscapes. You want a tight crop on a landscape, or you just want to zone in on details. Having this in my bag and knowing it's there constantly and not having to worry about it and just being able to throw it on really quick is a huge benefit. And on a crop body camera, you're still getting that 600 millimeter reach equivalent. So if you do need more reach, you can always do teleconverters, which I've heard isn't the greatest with these. Already being a 6.3 aperture, that's pretty dark. And I believe the image quality does take a hit quite a bit. So I would kind of maybe shy away from that and just keep it at like the naked lens or the naked focal length. But it's got everything. It's got manual focus. It's got switches on the side. It's got optical stabilization. You can adjust and customize 2 settings. This was used, so I don't know what settings were previously put into it. I've just found that number 1, whatever the person had before set it to, number 1 works the best for me. Number 2 is a little bit jittery, so I believe it could be for panning, but I just leave it on 1 all the time, or off if I'm on a tripod. Same with the custom 1 and custom 2 settings. I don't know what the previous owner had it set at. Whatever it was, they took care of it. The action is still smooth. It doesn't creep. So it stays pretty tight. Overall good condition. It does have a lock to keep it at 100, which is closed up. So when I'm in my bag sometimes and I go to pull it out, if I forget it, it'll kind of extend the lens and it just bothers me. So you can lock that to keep it from creeping or extending all the way. But otherwise, initially kind of was almost a deterrent, but I ended up still buying the lens. There was no tripod collar for this lens, and you couldn't officially get one for this lens. I ended up finding this one though on Amazon, and it works perfect. They CNC'd around the autofocus screen. They CNC'd around the switch, the dials and the switches here. You can't rotate it vertically, so if you want to go vertical, you have to turn the whole camera sideways. So that's a bit of a bummer, but I mean, for me, I found just carrying it around like a handle and being able to just throw it on a tripod and put the weight off of the camera and on the lens itself, a big kind of pro on why I bought the lens collar in the first place. It is solid. I don't know, I forget the name of it, to be honest, but I'll put the link in the description below if you do have this lens or are looking at this lens and want to purchase a tripod collar for it. I believe the Sony and the Fuji versions are able to take a tripod collar, just the way the mirrorless works, where they've given you a little bit of extra gap to be able to put the ring around it. Canon and Nikon do not, but this aftermarket tripod does work. Autofocus is decently fast. I've never felt hindered by it, and I love when I'm at the park and I see these guys with like big 600mm lenses, which I would love, but the fact they're on monopods or tripods or so immobile, and the fact I can kind of just run around. I like to be on the move, so if there's like a kestrel out, for example, there was one time these guys would have to pick it up, move their stuff, readjust, refocus, and all this stuff. And I was able to just kind of run around and follow this thing as it was flying around. And I found that fun. I like being lightweight and nimble. So something like this and with this size really works well for me. And like I said, it's sharp wide open, so you can keep it at 6.3 and you're not losing too much light. You can stop it down to f8. I haven't really noticed too much of an improvement though. But yeah, overall, anybody getting into wildlife photography, I've taken a bunch of images with it, and I've been extremely happy. I bought this lens on sale for $600. So to be able to get a 100 to 400 in that price range was a huge benefit and a huge win, where usually you're starting around that $1,000 and up for budget and stuff. I mean, you could probably get these guys now for $600 to $700, which I would recommend. And see if you like it. Like, I wasn't sure if I was going to stay with wildlife photography and kind of grow out of it or fizzle out. So I didn't really want to put too much investment into it. That being said, now that I am a lot more invested and really into wildlife photography, I'm still going to keep this lens, and I don't really feel the need to upgrade. Would I love more reach? Yes. But at the same time, I find more of a challenge and enjoyment on trying to actually get closer to the animal, or setting up a photo blind and waiting for the animal to come closer to get an image. That's kind of where I stand with wildlife photography. Obviously, it still gives you that distance to be respectful and kind of keep your distance from the animal, not to disturb it too much. But with a crop sensor camera, 600mm is more than enough reach for the bigger animals. For smaller birds and stuff, it might struggle. So find yourself a higher megapixel camera to zoom in and make that difference up with the coverage on the field of view. But yeah, just wanted to get on here and kind of throw my thoughts out there for anyone kind of getting into wildlife. And if I can provide some value to anyone out there who's also looking to get into it, or is maybe lens shopping and doesn't want to spend a bunch of money to kind of get invested, but still wants to go out and take some pictures or decent pictures just to get their feet wet with taking photos of animals and stuff, I recommend this lens. And it's been a lot of fun. The size is perfect. The price is good. Yeah. That's it for this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any other recommendations or topics you want me to cover, questions, you know where they go. Leave them in the comments below. And if you decide to stick around, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.